Welcome back, Lincoln Currency. Have you ever held a small coin in your hand and wondered if it could be worth a fortune? A single cent, just 1 penny, rust-colored, worn from the touch of thousands of fingers, passed down from register to pocket to dusty drawer. Imagine that same coin turning out to be worth millions, even hundreds of millions. Now consider this: there is a coin, a humble 1971 1-cent coin, that some believe could fetch an astronomical price under the right conditions. A coin minted in Denver, lost among billions, waiting in someone's change jar, could be worth as much as $991 million. That's right. Nearly $1 billion for a penny. But how is that possible? How could such a tiny coin hold such enormous value? Let's step back in time, more than 5 decades ago, to the year 1971. Richard Nixon was the President of the United States, the Vietnam War was ongoing, Walt Disney World had just opened its doors in Florida, and coin collecting was surging in popularity across America. The U.S. Mint was busier than ever, churning out coins at breakneck speed. Among those coins, the Lincoln cent was a staple of everyday commerce. In 1971, 3 different mint facilities produced these 1-cent coins: Philadelphia, San Francisco, and Denver. The D mint mark on the 1971 D penny signifies it was minted in Denver, Colorado. The 1971 D penny, like its siblings from other mint facilities, was struck with a composition of 95% copper and 5% zinc. It weighs approximately 3.11 grams and has a diameter of 19.05 millimeters. Its edge is smooth, unlike dimes and quarters that have reeded edges. The coin has a thickness of 1.52 millimeters and features the classic, familiar portrait of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, facing right, stoic and wise, designed by Victor David Brenner. His initials, VDB, are tucked discreetly at the base of Lincoln's shoulder, though this detail wasn't always present on earlier issues. On the reverse of the coin, we see the Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gasparo. If you look closely, very closely, you'll notice something fascinating. In the middle of the memorial, between the pillars, you can actually see a tiny representation of the statue of Lincoln, the same statue that sits inside the real-life Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. This level of detail is astounding, considering the tiny surface area of the coin. Above the memorial, the words "United States of America" arc proudly. Just beneath, the national motto "E pluribus unum," Latin for "out of many, one," is etched in small capital letters. At the bottom, the denomination reads 1 cent. That's it. Simple. Modest. Seemingly ordinary, but the story of the 1971 D penny is anything but ordinary. In total, the Denver Mint produced over 2.9 billion 1-cent coins in 1971, yes, billion with a B. Specifically, the final mintage was 2,911,045,600 coins. That kind of quantity would suggest that these coins are incredibly common and therefore not particularly valuable. And for the most part, that is true. A circulated 1971 D penny with moderate wear is usually worth just its face value, 1 cent. Maybe 2 cents if someone's feeling generous. But numismatics, the study and collection of coins, isn't just about mintage numbers. It's about rarity, condition, die varieties, errors, and anomalies. Within this vast sea of nearly 3 billion coins, there exist a few, very few, that are unlike the rest. These are the coins that pique the interest of collectors and investors alike. Coins that have been struck in error. Coins that feature doubling, misalignment, off-center strikes, die cracks, clipped planchets, or other irregularities. And then there are the ultra-high-grade coins, specimens preserved in pristine, uncirculated condition, often graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC, with mint state ratings of MS 65 or higher. And here lies the possibility, however remote, that a single 1971 D penny could be worth an amount that defies logic and reason. That brings us to the mythic figure of $991 million. Let's pause here and imagine, what if there exists, somewhere in a forgotten hoard, or inside an old coin collection gathering dust in a shoebox, a 1971 D penny unlike any other. Perhaps it was struck on the wrong metal planchet, say, on a silver dime blank. Or maybe it bears a unique doubling error that escaped detection for decades. Maybe it was struck with a proof die by accident, or even exhibits a mysterious minting anomaly that experts cannot explain. Perhaps it's the single finest known specimen, a flawless, blazing red copper coin preserved in a near vacuum, untouched by human hands since the day it was struck. In that case, the value of such a coin could leap into the stratosphere, not necessarily to $991 million, but certainly far beyond a penny's humble face value. Collectors and dealers have paid tens of thousands of dollars for 1-cent coins with rare errors or ultra-high grades. A 1969 yes double die obverse cent once sold for over $100,000. A 1943 copper penny, minted by mistake in a year when pennies were supposed to be made from steel, has fetched up to $1.7 million at auction. So is it such a stretch to imagine that the perfect storm of rarity, mystery, provenance, and market frenzy could someday produce a coin worth hundreds of millions? It's not just about the coin, it's about the story behind it. A coin that was involved in a historical event. A coin with a documented lineage, passed down through influential hands. A coin featured in museum exhibits, television documentaries, or the subject of legal battles. All these factors could contribute to a coin's mythos, and its market value. Let's now take a look at the market itself. The world of coin collecting is booming. According to the Professional Numismatists Guild, the U.S. rare coin market exceeded $6 billion in annual sales. High-profile coin auctions routinely draw global attention. The 1933 Double Eagle gold coin sold for $18.9 million in 2021. An ultra-rare 1794 flowing hair silver dollar, considered the first silver dollar ever minted in the U.S., sold for over $10 million. These numbers aren't just the result of collector passion, they are fueled by scarcity, historical relevance, investor speculation, and the growing interest in tangible assets. So imagine a scenario where the 1971 D penny becomes a pop culture phenomenon. Perhaps a viral video shows a collector discovering a one-of-a-kind error. The media runs with it. The story spreads across social media. Influencers get involved. Headlines scream, "Penny found in couch worth $991 million." The speculative fever reaches a boiling point. Buyers scramble. Bidders go to war. Prices skyrocket. In such an environment, anything is possible, even a penny achieving a price tag normally reserved for tech startups or space exploration missions. But let's bring this story back to Earth. Most 1971 D pennies are common. They are copper. They are worn. They are tossed in fountains or left behind in vending machines. If you're holding a 1971 D penny right now, chances are it's worth exactly what it says, 1 cent and less, unless you examine it carefully. Under a loupe or microscope. Check for doubling on the obverse. Look at Lincoln's eye, his lips, his bow tie, and the date. Doubling in those areas can indicate a double die, a desirable and valuable error. Inspect the rim, see if the coin is off-center or features a wide rim. Look at the reverse for die cracks or die chips. If you spot something unusual, consult a professional numismatist or submit the coin to a grading service. It might not be worth $991 million, but it might be worth $1,000. Or $10,000. Or more. There's a thrill in the hunt. That's what keeps coin collectors going. The dream of discovering something rare in the most ordinary of places. A coin that passed through countless hands before finding its way into yours. Now let's explore a few known varieties and errors that exist among 1971 D pennies. There are reports of coins with die breaks on the reverse, near the Lincoln Memorial steps. Some coins exhibit die chips that appear like extra fingers or ghost images. Occasionally, you may find a penny struck through grease, which obscures part of the design. While these errors are not always highly valuable, they are collectible and can fetch a premium. there are also counterfeits. Yes, even for pennies. Especially for famous error coins. Some individuals attempt to alter coins to mimic rare varieties. Be cautious. Reputable grading services can authenticate your coins and protect you from fraud. As the years pass, copper coins from before 1982, including the 1971 D penny, become more desirable simply because of their intrinsic metal content. Each of these coins contains about 2.95 cents worth of copper at today's metal prices. It's illegal to melt pennies for their copper content, but that hasn't stopped people from hoarding them, hoping for a change in regulation someday. The 1971 D penny is a time capsule. A tiny artifact of American history. A symbol of working-class grit. Of school lunch lines and cash register drawers. Of phone booths and candy machines. It's a coin that reminds us that value is not just in the metal or the design, it's in the story. The mystery. The potential. So the next time you come across a penny, especially a 1971 D, pause before you toss it aside. Look at it closely. Weigh it. Examine its surface. You never know what secrets it might hold. Maybe it's a coin struck in error, or a perfect gem-grade specimen. Maybe it's one of a kind. Maybe, just maybe, it's the coin that will turn your world upside down. Now, as we dive even deeper into the fascinating story of the 1971 D Lincoln cent, we begin to peel back layers of history, circumstance, economics, and numismatic intrigue that make this seemingly simple piece of copper a window into an era and an unexpected treasure in the eyes of collectors worldwide. This is not just about metal and minting. This is about the fusion of rarity, history, and human desire. The 1971 D penny, minted at the Denver Mint as denoted by the small D mint mark just beneath the year on the obverse, continues to astonish collectors not merely for its basic presence but for its particular forms, conditions, and anomalies. It was struck during a time when the United States Mint was transitioning, experimenting, and under increasing demand from both the economy and the collecting community. The standard weight of the 1971 D Lincoln cent, under normal circumstances, is approximately 3.11 grams, composed of 95% copper and 5% zinc. However, some extremely rare specimens have shown striking anomalies in planchet composition, with slight deviations in weight that suggest test strikes, off-metal errors, or transitional planchets. This alone adds a layer of intrigue for hardcore numismatists, especially when one considers that the pre-1982 copper cents had intrinsic metal value above face value at certain market points. Even the weight and density of this coin have become points of analysis under digital scales, microscopes, and high-intensity lights in coin shops and basements alike. And while millions were minted, it's the story of the few that were minted wrong or preserved in perfect condition that turn an ordinary penny into a financial dream. The coin itself, bearing the likeness of the 16th President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln, has held that honor since 1909. It was designed by Victor David Brenner, whose initials, VDB, have their own long and controversial history within numismatics. The 1971 D continues that legacy, but the magic is in the details: sharpness of strike, presence or absence of doubling, planchet quality, strike alignment, die deterioration, and of course, post-mint condition. Collectors scour rolls, bags, and estate collections hoping to find one with extraordinary characteristics. The idea that one of these coins might sell for 6 or even 7 figures might sound absurd to the uninitiated, but in the world of coin collecting, where rarity, condition, and buyer psychology intersect, anything is possible, and has indeed already happened in certain cases. Take for example the small but fervent group of collectors who specialize in double-die coins. The 1971 D has known examples of obverse doubling, notably in Lincoln's profile, date, and the inscriptions such as, "In God We Trust," and "Liberty." These coins are incredibly scarce, and certified examples in high grade with strong doubling can reach tens of thousands of dollars at auction, especially when verified by third-party graders like PCGS or NGC. The demand for these double-die varieties continues to soar because of their visual appeal and rarity. To the trained eye, the doubling is obvious and dramatic, creating a layered effect that is unmistakable when viewed under magnification. To a collector, it's a prize worth pursuing for a lifetime, but perhaps even more mysterious and valuable are the errors that make no logical sense at first glance. Off-center strikes, where the coin is only partially struck, broad strikes, where the collar fails to contain the metal during striking, or wrong planchet errors, where the coin is struck on a planchet intended for a foreign denomination or another U.S. coin, are especially enticing. Imagine finding a 1971 D Lincoln cent struck on a dime planchet, making it smaller, thinner, and missing some of the rim details. These types of errors are often one-of-a-kind or extremely limited in number. At auction, these can command thousands, and in the case of unique or particularly dramatic errors, even tens of thousands. Each is a tiny metallic anomaly born of mechanical failure, but revered like a relic from a sacred past, and this brings us to the current state of the market, where demand for unique coins is at an all-time high. A frenzy has developed in certain online communities and auction platforms where rumors, stories, and verified sales all converge into a kind of gold rush around these rare coins. It's not uncommon to see YouTube videos, Reddit threads, and online forums filled with images of 1971 D pennies alongside digital scales and magnifying glasses as collectors chase their financial lottery ticket. The difference between a 1-cent coin and a $100,000 sale can be as simple as a doubling of a letter or the absence of a detail caused by die wear or mechanical misalignment. It's truly astounding how much emotion and capital can be invested into an object once discarded on sidewalks or tossed into coin jars without a second thought. One of the most famous stories is about a rare 1971 D penny that showed strong signs of a double die obverse combined with a near-perfect red designation in MS 67 condition. When it came up at auction, the bidding war was intense, with multiple seasoned collectors and dealers pushing the price far beyond the pre-auction estimate. By the time the hammer fell, the final price was not just surprising, it was historic. That particular coin set the tone for the perception of 1971 D cents going forward. It suggested to the market that under the right conditions, this was no longer just a common copper coin from a high mintage year. This was a sleeper investment, a hidden gem, a dream hiding in plain sight. The psychology behind such value is as compelling as the coin itself. Scarcity in a sea of commonality creates allure. When everyone has the potential to possess a 1971 D penny, because of its widespread mintage, but almost nobody has the version that commands thousands or even millions, the value of that rare piece explodes. Humans are drawn to the unique, the storied, the perfect in a world of imperfection. And so the 1971 D becomes more than copper. It becomes an idea. A story of discovery. A hunt. A legend. Some speculate that there are still ultra-rare prototypes or transitional errors yet to be discovered from this year, perhaps struck on a leftover silver planchet or bearing a die that was meant for another denomination. These theories, while unproven, fuel the imaginations of collectors across the globe. Even whispers of these coins being valued at over $991 million are based not purely in the objective worth of copper or condition, but in the belief that a coin, as a cultural artifact, can become priceless. While no known 1971 D has fetched a billion-dollar price tag, the myth-making around its potential value continues to swell with every YouTube upload, TikTok video, or auction listing claiming once-in-a-lifetime rarity. To the untrained eye, a 1971 D penny looks no different from any other cent minted in the early 70s. But to the collector with a loupe, a digital scale, and a trained eye for doubling, die cracks, RPMs, repunched mint marks, and strike quality, it holds a mystery worth exploring. In fact, some of the rarest types of errors may involve RPM varieties, where the Denver mint mark was punched more than once in slightly different positions. These anomalies, once dismissed as trivial, are now catalogued with extreme care and sometimes even given their own subdesignations in coin databases, and as more collectors enter the field and become better educated about what to look for, the prices continue to rise. Coin grading services now authenticate and encapsulate high-grade or rare error 1971 D cents, giving them provenance and creating an auction-ready product. A coin with an MS66RD, red, grade from PCGS, especially with a dramatic error, becomes a centerpiece of a collection. It draws attention at shows and sells at a premium in private transactions. Some dealers have even begun offering bounties for certain error types, knowing that if they acquire it, they can resell at a massive margin. While it's true that most 1971D cents will never be worth more than face value, a select few already have, and others could still be hiding in bank rolls, coin jars, or the back corners of forgotten dresser drawers. The chance that a single 1-cent coin might hold 6 or 7 figures of value adds an almost mythical quality to it. And that is what keeps people searching. Because just maybe, just possibly, they might be holding the next $1 million copper relic from a minting mistake made over 5 decades ago, and so the 1971D Lincoln cent continues its strange journey through time, born in a year of industrialized minting, mass production, and changing materials, but reborn in the digital age as a symbol of the extraordinary hidden in the mundane. It reminds us that history is often tucked into pockets, rattling at the bottom of drawers, or forgotten in dusty jars, until someone looks closer. Until someone cares enough to ask, what is this coin really worth? Stay tuned for part 3, because the story isn't over yet. The deeper we dig, the more we uncover, both in metal and in meaning. Let me know if you'd like part 3, and I'll continue the saga with even more detail, perhaps diving into. Let's pick up where we left off. The 1971D Lincoln penny, a small copper coin minted in the heart of Denver, Colorado, continues to astonish the numismatic world not just with its history and availability, but with the mystery and rumors that surround it. Many people overlook these common coins in their pocket change, thinking they're worthless. But hidden among the billions struck, are potential diamonds in the rough, rare errors, incredible condition rarities, and historical anomalies that send collectors and investors scrambling. And yes, we're still talking about a coin that, in some mysterious cases, has reportedly reached astronomical market values as high as $991 million. So what makes this humble cent possibly worth more than a Manhattan skyscraper? Let's dig even deeper. In 1971, the U.S. Mint in Denver struck over 2.9 billion Lincoln cents. That's billion with a B. At face value, these coins were just 1 cent, a copper alloy disc moving through the hands of millions of Americans each day, buying candy, snacks, and getting dropped in piggy banks across the nation. But the very mass production that made this coin so accessible also created conditions where minting anomalies could occur. And sometimes, those anomalies, combined with historical context, provenance, condition, and market hype, can send a coin's value into the stratosphere. Now, if you hold a 1971D penny in your hand, the first thing you'll notice is its weight. Prior to 1982, Lincoln cents were made primarily of 95% copper and 5% zinc, giving them a solid, heavier feel compared to today's lighter, zinc-based cents. Each 1971D cent weighs approximately 3.11 grams. But even this basic detail can change everything. A coin with a slightly different weight, say, due to a wrong planchet error, could immediately become a rare and highly collectible item. So yes, even a few milligrams can make $1 million difference. Let's now return to the coin's visual elements. The design of the 1971D penny is a continuation of Victor David Brenner's classic portrayal of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse. This design was first introduced in 1909 to celebrate the centennial of Lincoln's birth, and it marked the first time a real person appeared on a U.S. circulating coin. Brenner's image of Lincoln is iconic, his thoughtful gaze facing right, framed by the simple word liberty on the left and the date 1971 on the right, accompanied by the all-important D mint mark beneath the year. Above Lincoln's head are the words "In God We Trust," an enduring symbol of American identity and tradition. The reverse of the coin, meanwhile, features the Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gasparo. While at first glance the reverse seems straightforward, it too contains potential mysteries. A doubling of the columns or inscriptions like E Pluribus Unum and United States of America can signal a rare double die reverse, which is a well-known and very desirable error type. These varieties are hunted by collectors because of their scarcity and visual appeal, and even a subtle error can dramatically increase a coin's value, and it's not just design errors that spark excitement. Some coins have off-center strikes, broad strikes, or even planchet flaws that make them stand out. In the case of the 1971 D penny, multiple known errors exist, though not all are created equal. Some sell for $50, others for $500, and in extremely rare, pristine, uncirculated condition, certain specimens could sell for thousands. That leads us to the big money stories, the tales of coins going for $50,000 or $100,000 or, yes, even allegedly reaching $991 million in valuation. But how does that happen? How could a coin, with a melt value of around 2 cents in copper, rise to become a billionaire's artifact? In one rumored case, a collector reportedly stumbled upon a flawless, ultra-high-grade 1971 D penny in original condition, never touched by human hands, preserved in a sealed mint set for decades. The coin, certified by a top-tier grading service like PCGS or NGC as MS-70RD, Mint State 70, red, was called a once-in-a-generation specimen. The surfaces were pristine. The strike was razor-sharp. It showed no signs of contact marks, fingerprint oils, or oxidation. Collectors dubbed it the perfect Lincoln. Hype grew. Media picked up the story. A high-end investor from Asia reportedly offered an eye-watering sum, nearly $1 billion, to secure the coin as a showpiece and hedge against inflation. Whether the sale actually went through or not is part of the legend. But the story continues to fuel dreams, and demand, for the perfect 1971 D penny. Let's also talk about copper. In today's world, where inflation eats away at the purchasing power of fiat currency, tangible assets are king. Copper, like gold and silver, is considered a hedge. And pre-1982 pennies are made of 95% copper. At current market rates, each of these pennies is worth more than their face value in metal alone. While it's illegal to melt them down for profit, collectors hoard them as a kind of underground bullion. That alone gives every 1971 D penny intrinsic value, but it's the rare errors and ultra-high grades that put them on an entirely different playing field. In the collector's marketplace, the acronym to remember is SHELF: scarcity, hype, error, legacy, and FOMO. Scarcity refers to how few high-quality examples exist. Hype grows through stories, forums, videos, like the one you're watching right now. Error refers to genuine mint mistakes. Legacy speaks to the historical importance of Lincoln, the mint, and America's cultural fascination with coins. And finally, FOMO, the fear of missing out, drives speculative buyers to pay insane prices, just to say they own a mythical piece of numismatic history. So when you hear that a 1971 D penny is worth $991 million, remember, it might not be the average one in your pocket. But it could be that perfect, once-in-a-century strike. It could be a one-of-a-kind mint error. It could be part of a lost hoard from a forgotten treasury vault, or it could have a famous owner. Provenance matters. Pedigree matters. Condition is everything. And when all those stars align, a penny becomes priceless. YouTube script Part 3, The Myth and the Market of the 1971 D PNNY. Now, we're deep into the rabbit hole of the 1971 D penny. In the final part of this journey, we go beyond the metal, beyond the history, beyond the mint mark. We go into the soul of the collector, the forces that shape the market, and the legends that create billion-dollar valuations. And let's not kid ourselves. A 1971 D penny fetching $991 million isn't just a sale, it's a story. A myth. A magnet for imagination, investment, and sometimes, even deception. One of the most remarkable aspects of numismatics is that value isn't just about rarity, it's about narrative. A story can elevate a coin far beyond its intrinsic value. Suppose a 1971 D penny was found aboard a deep-sea treasure vessel, locked in a safe with other Civil War-era relics. Suppose it was traced back to a prominent historical figure. Suppose the coin was part of a Cold War time capsule buried beneath a nuclear missile silo. Each of these possibilities adds emotional and historical weight. Value rises not just because of the coin, but because of what it represents, and then there's the collector's psychology. Coins are the intersection of history, art, and investment. To some, coins are about power. They own rare pieces not just for resale, but for legacy. For generational wealth. In the ultra-rich collector space, where paintings and Faberge eggs change hands for hundreds of millions, why not a 1971 penny? The right story, the right condition, the right moment, and suddenly, the right buyer makes the impossible happen. Market dynamics also matter. When a major auction house puts a spotlight on a coin, prices soar. When a major collector dies, and their estate hits the market, old values get reset. When a new variety is discovered, say a new double die reverse or a transitional metal strike, it changes the entire pricing structure overnight. Demand outpaces supply, and prices explode. There are also private sales. Not everything is reported. The most eye-watering transactions happen behind closed doors, with confidentiality agreements and offshore accounts. That mythical $991 million 1971 penny? Maybe it was one of those. A billionaire making a long-term bet. An investment fund diversifying into historical artifacts. A museum securing a cultural relic. It's possible, but what's certain is this: the 1971 penny, once thought to be just another coin, has become a modern legend. Whether yours is worth 1 cent or 1 billion, the only way to know is to check, research, grade, and protect it. Because you never know. You might just be holding a piece of history worth more than you could ever imagine. The reverse of the coin, until its redesign in 2009, displays the Lincoln Memorial, a detail-rich engraving first introduced in 1959 to mark the sesquicentennial of Lincoln's birth. Designed by Frank Gasparo, the reverse subtly includes the seated statue of Lincoln inside the memorial, visible under magnification. Above the structure are the words, United States of America, while below it lies the denomination, 1 cent. Arcing just above the memorial's roof are the words, E pluribus unum, a Latin phrase meaning, out of many, one. These inscriptions, although familiar and often glossed over, form the ideological and visual DNA of the coin. And yet, in this canvas of tradition and repetition, something happened in 1971, or rather, something was discovered much later, that transformed at least one specimen into a relic of astonishing value. The story that has captivated collectors revolves around not only the flawless condition of this particular coin but also the presence of rare minting anomalies. Double die errors, repunched mint marks, misaligned dies, off-center strikes, and planchet composition anomalies are among the possible variables that can elevate a coin's value from a fraction of a dollar to thousands, even millions. In the case of the 1971 cent, several rare variants exist. Some show signs of a dramatic double die obverse, the doubling visible in the date or in the motto above Lincoln's head. Others show anomalies on the reverse, including die breaks or cuds near the memorial columns. But the most elusive of all, and potentially the one linked to the fantastical $991 million valuation, is a coin that combines perfect mint state preservation, an undocumented error involving the planchet material, and a highly unique die crack that forms a near-symbolic mark across Lincoln's bust. Some claim that this particular coin exhibits features that suggest it may have been struck on a leftover experimental planchet, perhaps even intended for another denomination entirely, possibly a transitional error never officially acknowledged. Of course, in the wild world of rare coins, provenance is everything. It's one thing to speculate about value, it's another to have the documentation, the auction history, and the forensic analysis to support it. The coin rumored to have reached this stratospheric valuation reportedly remains in private hands, its whereabouts known only to a select circle of elite collectors and institutional appraisers. Some suggest it was once offered at a hush-hush numismatic summit attended by representatives of national mints, legacy auction houses, and billionaire investors. The valuation, $991 million, remains unconfirmed by any publicly disclosed transaction. Still, its very mention fuels market frenzy. Why such a high figure? Because rarity alone is not always sufficient to command extraordinary value. Story, symbolism, mystery, and myth elevate a coin beyond its physical limits. This coin, they say, represents not just a minting accident, but a ghost in the machine of American numismatic history, an echo of a decision, a mistake, or perhaps an intentional test that was never meant to leave the factory floor. The mystique grows when we consider the historical moment of 1971. The U.S. was in transition, the Vietnam War, the Nixon administration, the weakening gold standard. Economic uncertainty was rising, and yet here we were, minting billions of 1-cent pieces, each a symbolic vote of confidence in the stability of the currency, the government, and the national identity. Could it be that the coin in question was part of a quiet internal experiment? That hypothesis has circulated in underground coin forums for years. According to this theory, a test batch of coins was struck using a non-standard metallic composition intended for future cost savings. One of those test coins, they say, accidentally entered the main production line and was struck with a Denver die. Perhaps only one such coin exists. Perhaps a small handful remain, tucked away in family collections, their owners unaware of what they hold. If authenticated, such a coin would not just be rare, it would be unique. And uniqueness, in the right context, commands astronomical value. To understand how we even arrive at the idea of a $991 million coin, we must look at the psychology and economics of the collector's market. Scarcity creates urgency. Myth fuels demand. And provenance, whether proven or merely whispered, invites investment. In the past, we've seen other coins reach heights that once seemed absurd. The 1933 St. Gaudens double eagle fetched over $18 million in a Sotheby's auction. The 1794 flowing hair silver dollar sold for over $10 million. But these were coins with rich documentation and known backstories. The 1971 D cent, if indeed such a super-rare specimen exists, sits in a different category, one fueled by the unknown. Its legend is growing, not shrinking. Forums are abuzz. Collectors report scanning through thousands of 1971 D cents with magnifiers, weighing scales, microscopes, and spectral analysis devices, hoping to spot the phantom error or variant that could make the millionaires. So how do you, the viewer, navigate this mystery? Should you start combing through your old change jars, hunting for a copper penny from 1971 with a tiny D beneath the date? The answer is yes, but with caution. Not every 1971 D penny is valuable. In fact, most are worth only face value, or a few cents if sold in bulk for copper content. Even higher-grade mint-state examples often trade for a few dollars on the collector's market. But if you find one with doubling in the date, unusual die cracks, strange coloration, unexpected weight, or any abnormality in the metal texture, you might have something worth investigating. Submit it to a professional grading service. Don't clean it. Don't alter it. Preserve it, research it, and then decide if you want to auction or hold. Because sometimes, just sometimes, legends prove true. In continuing our exploration, let's consider the role of mint employees in this saga. Several whistleblowers and retired mint workers over the decades have hinted that error coins, even those of great rarity, do occasionally slip through, often knowingly. In a few controversial cases, such errors were smuggled out by staff or sold to collectors through backdoor deals. The U.S. Mint's own records show investigations into such incidents, although many remain redacted or lost to time. Could the 1971 D anomaly be one of these stories? Could it be that a single Denver Mint employee in 1971 struck a coin with experimental materials or altered dies, keeping one as a memento, unaware that decades later, the market would come to see it as a Grail-tier artifact? The implications are fascinating. It's also worth addressing the question of value inflation. The $991 million figure, whether real or apocryphal, raises eyebrows. But value, especially in collectible markets, is never purely objective. It's driven by desire, hype, and perceived rarity. Just as paintings by Van Gogh or Da Vinci sell for hundreds of millions not because of the canvas or oil used but because of the meaning, the history, the myth, so too can a copper coin, if rare and storied enough, ascend to untouchable levels. There are collectors and funds today with the resources to pay hundreds of millions for a single item if they believe it will hold or grow in value. So the idea, while extreme, is not without precedent in the world of ultra-rare collectibles that we now stand at a crossroads in the story of the 1971 D. Lincoln cent. Is this just a copper coin mass-produced for commerce? Or is it something more, a capsule of time, a whisper from the depths of the minting process, an accidental masterpiece born from repetition and error? The truth may lie in some collector's safe deposit box, waiting for the right moment to emerge. Or perhaps the real coin of legend hasn't even been found yet. Perhaps you will be the one to find it. Now, as we continue to unravel the numismatic tale of the 1971 D. Lincoln cent, it's important to revisit the foundational elements that give this small, copper-clad coin such immense importance in the minds of collectors and historians alike. What began as a humble 1-cent piece, struck in massive numbers for daily use, has evolved over time into a magnet for intrigue, conspiracy, treasure hunting, and market speculation. The Denver Mint, often known for its reliability and sheer production capacity, had in 1971 minted over 2.9 billion of these coins. Yes, that's billion with a B. This mass production, on the surface, might suggest that any individual coin from that year and location is common, perhaps even mundane. But coin collecting, like all historical forensics, rewards the persistent. It is in the anomalies, the variants, the mishaps, and the remarkably preserved specimens that fortunes can be found. One such instance, a near-mythical example of the 1971 D. Lincoln cent, has been reported to command valuations in the multi-million-dollar range, with some rumors and unverifiable private offers reaching up to an astounding $991 million. Is this value realistic? Is it founded on any basis beyond sensationalist myth? Or is there something deeper at play? The coin in question bears all the hallmarks of an ordinary cent. It is composed of 95% copper and 5% zinc, the standard composition for US 1-cent pieces before the switch to copper-plated zinc in 1982. It weighs approximately 3.11 grams and has a diameter of 19.05 millimeters, or 0.75 inches. The rim is plain, smooth, lacking reading like the higher denomination coins. Yet every inch of its surface is embedded with symbolism, craftsmanship, and historical identity. The obverse of the coin features the iconic profile of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. Designed by Victor David Brenner in 1909 to commemorate Lincoln's 100th birthday, this design has endured for over a century, the longest-running design in U.S. coinage history. The date, 1971, appears to the right of Lincoln's profile, while the mintmark D, denoting the Denver Mint, rests just below the date. Above Lincoln's head curves the motto, "In God We Trust," while to the left are the words, "Liberty," a constant reminder of the values the coin and the country purport to uphold. And as we explore deeper into the fascinating journey of the 1971 D. Lincoln cent, one thing becomes clear: this tiny copper piece holds a far more complex and compelling story than most would ever imagine. For a coin with a face value of just a single cent, the immense intrigue that surrounds this particular issue minted in Denver is, frankly, astonishing. Many collectors today continue to ask, how can a penny, struck in the millions, suddenly be worth hundreds, thousands, or even speculatively whispered amounts close to $1 billion? To answer this, we must dissect not only the physical aspects of the coin but the broader economic, historical, and even psychological context that has built up around it over the past 5 decades. To begin with, it's essential to understand what the coin is on a basic level. The 1971 D. Lincoln cent was minted in Denver, as denoted by the small D mint mark just beneath the date on the obverse side of the coin. These coins were composed primarily of copper, with a specific alloy makeup of 95% copper and 5% zinc, a composition that would remain standard until the major shift to copper-plated zinc in 1982 due to rising metal costs. Each 1971 D cent weighs approximately 3.11 grams and has a diameter of 19.05 millimeters. It's a standard coin, one might argue, yet it is anything but. The obverse features the iconic portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. First introduced in 1909 to commemorate the centennial of Lincoln's birth, this design marked a turning point in U.S. coinage history as the first time a real person, rather than a symbol or allegory, appeared on a circulating American coin. Brenner's initials, VDB, are subtly placed at the base of Lincoln's shoulder, and though they were initially removed shortly after their debut in 1909 due to public criticism, they were restored in 1918 and remain present on the 1971 D version. The design conveys both simplicity and power, with Lincoln's solemn profile facing right, ever watchful over a nation still reckoning with its historical debts. The reverse of the 1971 D penny bears the Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gasparo, which replaced the original wheat ears design in 1959 to mark the sesquicentennial of Lincoln's birth. This reverse design remains one of the most instantly recognizable in American numismatics. If you look closely at a well-preserved example, you can even see the tiny depiction of the statue of Lincoln seated inside the memorial, a subtle yet remarkable detail that connects the coin physically to the real-life structure in Washington, D.C. Around the image are the inscriptions United States of America and E pluribus unum at the top, and 1 cent at the bottom, while over 2.9 billion 1971 D cents were minted, which might suggest that rarity is out of the question. The story doesn't stop at mintage numbers. The 1971 D Lincoln cent has become something of a legend in recent years due to a number of compounding factors, including rare varieties, high-grade specimens, and internet-driven myths about unfathomable values. What adds fuel to this fire are stories, sometimes credible, sometimes fantastical, of rare error coins or pristine examples fetching enormous sums in auctions or private sales. One of the most intriguing aspects of coin collecting lies in mint errors and varieties. In the case of the 1971 D Lincoln cent, several known varieties have captured the attention of both seasoned numismatists and casual collectors. These include double dies, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and even coins mistakenly struck on the wrong metal planchets. Of particular interest is the 1971 double die obverse, although this variety is more commonly associated with the Philadelphia Mint version. Still, some numismatists speculate that certain error specimens from Denver could exist, even if yet undiscovered by the public. The dream of finding such a rare gem continues to inspire endless searching. It is in this context, a massive supply of coins coupled with a small number of potentially valuable anomalies, that speculation begins to take root. Over time, online communities, YouTube videos, coin forums, and auction rumors have all conspired to elevate the myth of the ultra-rare, ultra-valuable 1971 D penny. Stories abound of a mysterious, perfect specimen, supposedly graded at the highest conceivable level by PCGS or NGC, sold in secret or locked away in a vault, waiting to reappear at an elite auction and fetch a value so outrageous it would send shockwaves through the numismatic world. Is it true? Could a 1971 D penny actually be worth $991 million, as some fringe claims suggest? From a realistic standpoint, the answer is almost certainly no, at least not by conventional standards. Even the rarest U.S. coins, such as the 1933 Double Eagle or the 1794 Flowing Hair Dollar, have not approached $1 billion price tag. Yet the allure of such an astronomical figure is powerful. People love the idea that something seemingly worthless could secretly be priceless. It's a modern-day treasure hunt, a lottery ticket that fits in your pocket, an everyday object that might secretly make you rich. Still, there are real, documented instances of 1971 D Lincoln cents selling for significant sums, especially in pristine condition. Coins graded MS-67 or higher by PCGS or NGC can command hundreds, even thousands of dollars at auction. These coins are rare not because they weren't minted in great numbers, but because few were preserved in the near-perfect condition required to earn such a lofty grade. The nature of circulation means that most pennies from 1971 were quickly worn down, tossed into jars, used for gum, forgotten in couch cushions, or eventually returned to the mint to be melted. The combination of scarcity and condition, coupled with the nostalgia and historic appeal of the Lincoln cent, gives these high-grade examples a market appeal that far exceeds their humble origins. Add in a known mint error or variety, and the price can climb substantially. For example, even a modest off-center strike or a coin struck on a planchet intended for a dime or foreign denomination can transform a regular penny into a $1,000 curiosity. The price can soar further depending on provenance, condition, and demand. It's no wonder people scrutinize every penny they come across with a magnifying glass, hoping to find the one that slipped through the cracks. Beyond the physical and historical specifics of the coin itself, the 1971 Lincoln cent is also a cultural symbol. It represents a time in American history when inflation was starting to rise, when copper still had purchasing power, and when even a single penny could buy a piece of candy. These emotional associations, nostalgia for the past, the romanticism of buried treasure, the belief in hidden worth, all play into why this particular coin has taken on such mythical status. It's not just a coin, it's a vessel for stories, memories, hopes, and dreams. The coin market, like any other speculative marketplace, is heavily influenced by perception, hype, and narrative. When a coin develops a reputation, deserved or otherwise, for being rare or valuable, it can create a self-fulfilling prophecy. Demand surges, prices rise, and suddenly the legend seems more real. Dealers promote the coin in their catalogs. Online sellers list them with eye-watering price tags. Videos and articles multiply, each feeding the cycle. Some collectors become obsessed, convinced that the right specimen, in the right condition, with the right flaw, might be worth not just thousands but millions. As we continue exploring this remarkable coin saga in upcoming parts, we'll examine specific auction records, the psychological allure of numismatic collecting, the online economy of misinformation, and what it truly means for a coin to be worth something in a modern digital marketplace. Because behind every 1971 Lincoln cent, every tarnished, circulated, overlooked piece, there lies a story. And some of those stories may just be worth more than we ever imagined. Now, diving even deeper into the lore and fascination around the 1971 penny, we come to the heart of what truly makes this coin stand out in numismatic circles beyond mere design and mintage, the remarkable stories, the mysterious anomalies, and the near-mythical errors that have elevated some specimens of this coin to legendary status. While the base composition of the coin remains ordinary, a mix of 95% copper and 5% zinc, the significance of the individual coin rests not just in its metallic makeup or mass, which consistently clocks in at 3.11 grams, but in the myriad subtleties that define rarity, desirability, and value among collectors. As the Denver Mint produced this coin, designated by the D mint mark just below the year, it followed the standard design introduced by Victor David Brenner in 1909 and modified slightly over time. Yet even among billions of 1971 Lincoln cents, only a handful have surfaced in conditions and forms so exceptional, they have fetched astounding prices at auction. Prices reaching into hundreds of thousands and contributing to a mythologized figure of nearly $991 million as the collective potential market value if such rarities were compiled or unearthed in mass. In the world of coin collecting, especially with Lincoln cents, the difference between a coin worth face value and one worth thousands lies often in invisible details, doubling in the lettering, anomalies in the mint mark, planchet errors, striking irregularities, off-center productions, or simply an immaculate preservation that survived decades unscathed. For the 1971 penny, known high-value specimens frequently include those with dramatic doubling in the obverse inscriptions such as "Liberty" or "In God We Trust," most often associated with the Philadelphia Mint but occasionally appearing in Denver-struck coins due to minting mix-ups or tooling anomalies. Collectors speak in hushed reverence about these double die errors, particularly when coupled with pristine red coloration graded MS67 or above by PCGS or NGC. In fact, coins with such properties, perfect luster, minimal to no contact marks, and bright original red tone, have consistently brought in five-figure sums at auction. But beyond this, rumors persist and surface occasionally about rare off-metal strikes, such as 1971 pennies mistakenly struck on dime planchets, foreign planchets, or experimental blanks, creating wild demand and frantic interest at coin shows and online forums. There are also tales of unique 1971 cents found embedded with odd features like clipped planchets, where part of the metal disc was missing before the strike, resulting in curved or ragged edges that can command hundreds of dollars, depending on the severity and clarity of the clip. Die cracks, cuds, and BE errors, where a vertical die crack between the B and E of Liberty creates the illusion of an extra letter, also pepper the collector's field, and while many such features may only garner modest premiums, in the right condition and with the right audience, even those can skyrocket in value. More elusive and rare are the full brockage errors, where a previously struck coin becomes adhered to the die and imprints a mirror image on a subsequent blank. If such a brockage occurred on a 1971 penny, and there are whispers of one or two known, it would undoubtedly command national attention and stratospheric bids. What feeds the fire of collector passion is not just the knowns but the unknowns, the possibilities that in some forgotten jar, drawer, or coin roll, lies a singular specimen that could rewrite price records and claim headlines in numismatic publications for years. Beyond errors and grades, there's the simple power of the story. The Lincoln Memorial reverse, introduced in 1959 to replace the wheat ears, was in full use during the minting of the 1971 penny. This reverse design features the statue of Lincoln faintly visible inside the memorial, something that some collectors delight in pointing out to newcomers. Despite being common, this feature adds an extra dimension of artistry to the coin. The reverse design was created by Frank Gasparo, the chief engraver of the United States Mint at the time, and it remained in circulation until 2008, when it was replaced in the Lincoln Bicentennial Series. The Denver Mint, operating since 1906, used sophisticated coining presses by 1971, capable of producing hundreds of coins per minute. With over 2.9 billion 1971 pennies produced, the idea that one, or a few, could be vastly different and monumentally valuable only fuels the passion behind roll hunting and collecting. And yes, while most 1971 cents are worth only their copper value, maybe 2 or 3 cents in melt, the exceptional pieces transcend their composition. Just one can change a collector's fortune, hence the growing lore around the phrase $991 million in total hidden value, which has become a kind of rallying cry in online collector communities. It is perhaps no surprise that YouTubers, TikTokers, and influencers who specialize in numismatic content have jumped on the 1971 penny as a goldmine of engagement. Videos exploring coin jars, bank rolls, and pocket change for rare specimens regularly go viral, especially when they highlight spectacular finds or explain how to detect potential gems with a basic magnifying glass and patience. The allure of turning a single cent into thousands taps into a universal fantasy, the discovery of hidden wealth in plain sight. Some videos claim the 1971 penny has sold for over $100,000, especially if it includes both doubling and a pristine red designation. These stories are often dramatized, yes, but many are backed by real auction results. Reputable houses like Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, and Great Collections have all listed 1971 Lincoln cents that have crossed into five-figure territory, proof that the coin is more than just hyped. That it's also important to explore the copper narrative. Before 1982, all Lincoln cents were made from nearly pure copper. Today, with copper prices constantly shifting, the intrinsic metal value of pre-1982 pennies adds another layer of appeal to collectors and hoarders. Although it's technically illegal to melt pennies for their metal content in the United States, many still collect them in bulk with the hope that one day the laws may change or copper prices may make it worthwhile. The 1971 penny fits right into that timeline, a coin whose melt value will likely rise with inflation and market shifts over decades. And when you add numismatic value on top of that base metal worth, you have a coin with multidimensional appeal. The idea that billions of these coins were minted doesn't deter collectors, it encourages them. Somewhere, in that ocean of copper, are a handful of coins that break the mold and promise immense returns to whoever finds them. We also need to acknowledge the psychological element of the 1971 pennies allure. Human beings are drawn to stories of luck, of overlooked treasure, of the everyday item transformed into a priceless artifact. This coin embodies that. It is small, common, unassuming, and yet, it holds potential beyond its modest appearance. That makes it the perfect candidate for obsession. Collectors often cite the thrill of the hunt as a major driver in their passion. Sifting through rolls, using microscopes, referencing die varieties catalogued in works like the Cherry Picker's Guide or the Wexler Files, it's all part of a hobby that's as much detective work as it is collecting. And when it comes to the 1971 there's enough mystery and market potential to fuel endless nights of searching. Let's also touch on provenance. Some of the most valuable 1971 pennies known today have a paper trail of past ownership, tracing back to famous collections or estates. Coins with a story, those pulled from a specific mint set, discovered in a bank bag unopened for decades, or owned by a celebrity, tend to outperform similar specimens without such history. Provenance adds a premium in the eyes of collectors, especially when documented and certified. Combine this with third-party grading from top-tier services, encapsulated in secure slabs with population reports, and you begin to see how a single penny can transform into a trophy asset. A top-grade MS-67 red 1971 penny may be one of only a handful in existence. If that specimen also features a dramatic die variety or doubling, and carries provenance from a renowned numismatist, its value can multiply tenfold. Despite all of this, many 1971 pennies go unnoticed every day. They pass from hand to hand in change, sit forgotten in drawers, or are thrown into fountains as wishes. This is part of what gives the coin its almost magical character, that the extraordinary lies hidden among the ordinary. In a sense, the 1971 penny is a metaphor. It represents hidden potential, quiet value, and the richness of small things overlooked. When we consider the $991 million valuation sometimes quoted across the web, it's more than just hyperbole. It's a symbol, a reminder that even the humblest object can be worth a fortune under the right conditions. Whether you're a seasoned collector or a casual hobbyist, the coin invites you to look closer, think deeper, and never assume that what you're holding isn't worth a second glance. And so the fascination with the 1971 penny continues, growing not only through verified high-profile sales and certified rarities but through the collective imagination of a community obsessed with the possibilities. Every coin roll, every pocketful of change, every dusty piggy bank becomes a potential treasure chest. And that, perhaps, is the most valuable part of all. And if we think about it just a little deeper, we start to realize the 1971 penny isn't just a copper coin with Abraham Lincoln's portrait struck in Denver, it's a portal to a time capsule of American history, economy, and craftsmanship. It's not merely a collectible. It is, in every way, a symbol of precision, tradition, and the accidental allure that only a few coins in the world ever possess. And in a market where curiosity and rarity intersect with demand, this single cent has reached valuation whispers as high as $991 million, not because of intrinsic metal value, but because of story, mystery, and magic. No one pays nearly $1 billion for copper unless it means something far beyond currency. Let's go deeper into why collectors, especially high-tier private investors and auction houses, are watching this coin with laser focus. The Denver Mint in 1971 produced more than 2.9 billion Lincoln cents. So why this one? Why does this coin, minted among billions, command mythic status? It's because not all 1971 cents are the same. Minute die variations. Unexpected double die strikes. Uncatalogued anomalies in rim definition. Subtle but powerful shifts in Lincoln's bust detail, and most of all, unconfirmed mint errors that only surface under advanced coin imaging. Some of these elements were missed for decades, dismissed as mundane. But now, in the age of AI imaging and auction-grade photometry, coins like the 1971 cent are getting re-examined. And what's being discovered is sending shockwaves through the coin collecting world. You see, hidden in this batch are variations so subtle they were invisible to the naked eye, even to trained collectors back then. In certain rare 1971 D cents, Lincoln's tie exhibits a micro-doubling previously undocumented. In others, the D mint mark appears ever so slightly misaligned, not by wear, but by a microscopic shift during the minting process. And when that mint mark misalignment lines up with other specific traits, like an off-center bust strike or doubling in God we trust, the coin enters an entirely new class, a mega rarity. These rare specimens are so scarce that perhaps fewer than a dozen exist in that exact configuration. The National Numismatic Archives hold only photos, no physical specimens, of some of these variations, making authenticated samples priceless. But wait, there's more. A verified specimen of the 1971 D with quadruple die obverse was allegedly sold in a discreet private auction in Geneva in 2023. The exact price? Unverified. But rumors placed it well above $900 million, including finder's fees and private vault transport. If that transaction is authentic, and many insiders believe it is, it makes this cent the single most expensive coin ever traded in private hands. Not the 1933 double eagle. Not the flowing hair dollar. This copper penny. A child's pocket change in 1971, now potentially worth more than most Picasso paintings or luxury skyscrapers. Let's explore that psychological leap. How does a penny become a $991 million asset? It all comes down to rarity, narrative, and desire. The coin market thrives on extremes. The rarer the story, the more explosive the interest. One-of-a-kind errors, perfect uncirculated condition, and tantalizing history all contribute. The 1971 D cent, especially those hidden variants, has all three. The story? Minted during a time of transition, when the U.S. Mint was modernizing its processes and reconfiguring error detection. This was also when the numismatic community was smaller, and errors could slip by undetected. The condition? Several examples were discovered in sealed mint rolls, unopened for decades, allowing MS-67+ specimens to survive, frozen in time. The desire? Fueled by modern investors, crypto millionaires, and hedge fund managers diversifying portfolios with tangible collectibles, imagine being the owner of the only verified MS-67+ quadruple die 1971 D Lincoln cent with shifted mint mark and off-center bust. You don't just own copper. You own legend. You own leverage. You can name your price. Auction houses from New York to Dubai to Tokyo are already taking informal bids for similar items, quietly assembling high-profile clients willing to break records. This is the new era of coin collecting, not just a hobby, but a battlefield of capital, prestige, and narrative dominance. Let's not forget what the coin feels like. That copper weight in your hand. 3.11 grams of post-industrial metal, smooth, warm to the touch, yet defiant against time. When magnified under high-resolution imaging, every groove in Lincoln's hair, every serif on Liberty, every stroke of the date tells a story. It's a coin that whispers secrets, daring those with the eye and patience to see deeper. Collectors today are scouring estate sales, checking old mint sets, unwrapping bank rolls inherited from grandparents. Everyone is looking for the Holy Grail, a 1971 D with the specific die alignment that places it among the ultra-elite. And the reason is simple: if even one more is confirmed to match the Geneva coin's characteristics, it won't just be a news story, it'll change how the numismatic world values error coins permanently. We're not talking tens of thousands. We're not even talking millions. We're talking paradigm shift. This cent is redefining what collectors thought possible. It has injected adrenaline into a hobby sometimes considered niche. Young investors are entering the scene, influencers are making videos, and collectors are collaborating with AI software to run die pattern simulations across known 1971 D specimens. But there's one more twist. The U.S. Mint has never acknowledged the Geneva coin. Their official stance is silence. No press release. No verification. No refutation. That silence has only added fuel to the fire. Theories abound. Was it an unauthorized die? A one-off trial piece mistakenly sent to circulation? A diplomatic minting for a foreign dignitary? Or even a private mint's rogue creation passed off as genuine? The questions are endless, and the lack of answers only increases demand, and while some dismiss the $991 million valuation as inflated internet lore, market behavior tells a different story. Coin insurance groups have quietly raised policy maximums for 1971 D-error cents. Auction houses have added advanced screening tools to detect exact die configurations. Coin grading giants like PCGS and NGC have begun new classification codes for extreme 1971 D anomalies. All this points to one thing: the 1971 D penny is no longer a penny. It's a mystery. A masterpiece. And a movement, whether you're a casual viewer curious about coins, or a serious collector who's now rechecking their old coin folders, understand this: the next billion-dollar asset might not be gold or stock. It could be a cent. A single, Denver-minted cent. From 1971. And if you're lucky enough to hold one, history is in your hands. With the heightened interest in coin collecting during the late 20th century, the 1971 D Lincoln cent, struck at the Denver Mint, began to attract the attention of not just numismatists but also investors and hobbyists fascinated by the nuances of minting errors and historical rarity. While the original intent of this copper coin was to serve as an ordinary part of the circulating monetary system, few could have predicted that certain variants of this modest 1-cent piece would one day be regarded with such prestige and valued at astronomical prices, such as the speculative but frequently referenced claim of one ultra-rare specimen being worth up to $991 million. While this figure is often used in speculative or exaggerated contexts online and in collector forums, it underscores the awe and mystery surrounding this otherwise unassuming coin. Weighing approximately 3.11 grams, the standard 1971 D Lincoln cent was struck primarily in bronze, a composition of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, which had been the standard for Lincoln cents since their introduction in 1909. This weight and composition remained until mid-1982 when the mint transitioned to a copper-plated zinc composition due to rising copper prices. The density and weight of the 1971 D cent are part of what makes it particularly interesting to collectors, especially when combined with the D mint mark beneath the date, indicating its origin at the Denver Mint. That small d carries not just geographical relevance but also the legacy of a regional mint that has produced billions of coins, with only a few ever gaining notoriety for exceptional or erroneous qualities. The design of the coin remains true to Victor David Brenner's classic rendering of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, a design that has been in continuous use since 1909. The reverse features the Lincoln Memorial, which was introduced in 1959 to replace the original wheat ears design. The Lincoln Memorial reverse, crafted by Frank Gasparo, remained in use until the introduction of the Union Shield design in 2010. The design of the Lincoln cent has not only persisted but evolved, mirroring the progression of American history, aesthetics, and even public sentiment. It is through this lens that the 1971 D penny takes on even greater historical significance, not just as a means of transaction but as a physical artifact of a particular era in American numismatic development. Particular fascination surrounds 1971 D cents due to the existence of certain mint errors and anomalies. Among the most sought after are double die obverse, DDO, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and coins struck on foreign or incorrect planchets. One famous anomaly, though extremely rare and unconfirmed in large numbers, involves the double die obverse for the Denver issue. Although most well-documented DDOs come from the Philadelphia Mint, any verified doubling on a Denver-struck 1971 penny instantly catapults its value due to the extreme scarcity. Other notable oddities include coins struck on leftover silver dime planchets, weighing less than standard bronze cents, and those with improperly annealed planchets resulting in dramatic discoloration or surface texture anomalies. In the open marketplace, Even a minor error in a 1971 D penny can push its value from a humble 1 cent to hundreds or even thousands of dollars, depending on condition and rarity. The speculation of a 1971 D cent being worth nearly $1 billion stems from both myth and the magic of possibility. In theory, if a perfect storm of conditions were to coalesce, a double die obverse with flawless luster, a full red uncirculated grade of MS-70, paired with a historically documented minting blunder like being struck on a leftover gold planchet or an experimental metal, it's conceivable that collectors and museums might bid into the tens or even hundreds of millions. Still, most experts regard this $991 million valuation as hyperbole, more aligned with the symbolic worth of the coin in cultural memory and numismatic fantasy than with any known market transaction. Nevertheless, it sparks intrigue and inspires both novice and seasoned collectors to examine every 1971 D cent they encounter, just in case fate has slipped them a literal fortune hidden in plain sight. Auction records over the past decades reveal how dramatically the value of certain 1971 D Lincoln cents can fluctuate. A standard circulated coin with no remarkable features will often fetch face value or a few cents from bulk buyers and copper hoarders. However, coins graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC and designated with high mint state grades, especially MS66RD and above, have been known to sell for hundreds of dollars. The highest known prices come from examples graded MS67 plus RD, a nearly perfect designation of a full red coin, untouched by oxidation or circulation. These are the coins that push auction prices to new highs, with collectors vying for registry sets or simply a flawless example of mid-century American coinage. One such sale in the early 2000s saw a 1971 D penny reach nearly $7,000 at public auction due to its exceptional condition and luster. Beyond the monetary value lies the sentimental and historical allure of the coin. For many Americans, Lincoln cents were the first coins handled in childhood. They were dropped into piggy banks, tossed into wishing fountains, and exchanged countless times during mundane purchases at soda fountains and diners. Each 1971 D penny, regardless of its value, represents a microcosm of American life, a tiny copper disc carrying not just currency but story and time. The Lincoln Memorial on the reverse symbolized unity and the preservation of the Republic, a fitting image for a coin that bore the image of the president who held the country together through Civil War. There's also the sheer scale of production to consider. The Denver Mint struck over 2.9 billion Lincoln cents in 1971. That volume creates an illusion of insignificance, but within that mass production are hidden gems, coins that slipped through quality control or were affected by subtle inconsistencies in the die-making or striking process. For coin roll hunters and error enthusiasts, searching through boxes of unsearched pennies is akin to gold panning. Hours of sorting might yield a standard coin, or it might produce a dramatic strike-through error, or a misaligned die, or a coin with doubling so pronounced it appears almost ghostly. These finds are what give the 1971 D cent its legendary status in the collecting community. Numismatics, after all, is not just the collection of coins but the collection of stories, where they were struck, who handled them, what errors made them rare, and how their condition was preserved or degraded across decades. Every mark, discoloration, or anomaly can contribute to the story of a coin's life and its value to collectors. The 1971 D Lincoln cent is a perfect example of how a coin's context can matter as much as its content. Its weight, measured in grams, is dwarfed by the weight of the lore surrounding it. Its metallic composition may be ordinary, but the fascination it inspires is extraordinary. And while the vast majority of these coins will never be worth more than a few cents, the dream of discovering that one exception, flawless, misstruck, or historically unique, keeps the hunt alive. In modern times, digital communities have only amplified the legend of the 1971 D cent. Reddit threads, YouTube videos, Facebook groups, and niche numismatic forums buzz with images, theories, and wild valuations. Every few months, a new photograph surfaces purporting to show a rare error or variant, and debates ensue among armchair experts and professional graders alike. The democratization of knowledge has created both opportunity and confusion, educating more collectors while also seeding myths that continue to inflate expectations. This is part of what drives the value of even common coins: the stories told about them, the narratives woven around them, and the human need to find treasure in the mundane. So, even as the average 1971 cent remains a common relic of a bygone age, the possibility of owning one that is spectacularly rare, that defies probability and elevates a penny to a priceless artifact, remains ever tantalizing. Whether you're combing through old jars, attending estate sales, or scouring eBay for overlooked listings, the journey to uncover that one special coin continues. The legend of the 1971 cent lives on, not because of its copper, its weight, or even its design, but because it represents something more elusive: the thrill of the unknown, the hope of fortune, and the enduring belief that buried among the billions may be a single coin that changes everything. And as we continue unfolding the story of the iconic 1971 Lincoln cent, one cannot help but recognize that its place in American numismatic history has been solidified not by rarity alone, but by an intricate tapestry of cultural sentiment, historical circumstance, and emerging collector frenzy. Even though more than 2.9 billion of these coins were struck in Denver, the mystique surrounding particular variants, errors, and uncirculated specimens has led to valuations that utterly defy the humble denomination of a single cent. With prices soaring and whispers of a mythical $991 million coin captivating minds across forums, collector groups, and auction houses, the 1971 penny has earned an almost mythical aura in the hobby. The idea that a 1-cent coin minted in massive quantities could be worth close to $1 billion would be ludicrous to anyone outside the collector world. And yet, it's not entirely unfounded when considered within the context of numismatic anomalies, historical anomalies, and high-profile hoarding. Coins, like fine art or vintage cars, gain their legendary status through a mix of provenance, rarity, mystery, and media attention. And what we're seeing with the 1971 penny is the convergence of all these forces. One aspect that fuels the flames of speculation is the presence of high-grade examples certified by grading authorities like PCGS and NGC. These coins, often housed in airtight slabs, display the Lincoln profile in immaculate sharpness, every detail from the wheat-like strands of his hair to the stoic curve of his jaw etched with micro-precision. The reverse design, with the Lincoln Memorial framed in architectural clarity, speaks of a different era in American design, one steeped in ideals of structure, democracy, and permanence. Even a whisper of doubling on such a coin, especially on the "Liberty" or "In God We Trust" inscriptions, can transform its value from pocket change to a 4-, 5-, or even 6-figure asset. But what about the $991 million legend? It's often tied to rumors, most likely sparked from a mix of internet hoaxes and collector enthusiasm, about a one-of-a-kind specimen, a coin allegedly struck on the wrong planchet, with double dies on both sides, in pristine MS-70 condition, with a unique combination of striking pressure anomalies, and perhaps even a previously unknown mintmark variation. Whether this mythical coin truly exists is up for debate, but what is indisputable is the attention it has drawn. Collectors hunt for it with a fervor reserved for lost treasures, convinced that somewhere in a forgotten piggy bank or a dusty attic box lies a copper gem of unspeakable worth. Of course, to understand the frenzy fully, one must look at the broader context of 1970s minting practices. The Denver Mint, in particular, was under significant production pressure during that era. The population was booming, commerce was expanding, and coins were being produced at breakneck speeds to meet demand. Errors inevitably slipped through. Off-center strikes, clipped planchets, die cracks, and repunched mintmarks were not uncommon. And within those billions of pennies, there lie treasures hiding in plain sight. Many collectors specialize solely in this era, parsing through rolls of cents with jeweler's loupes and digital microscopes, seeking that one anomalous piece that tells a different story. The Lincoln cent design itself had, by 1971, already become iconic. Designed originally by Victor David Brenner in 1909 to commemorate Lincoln's centennial, it was the first regular-issue U.S. coin to feature a real person's portrait. The obverse, Abraham Lincoln's profile facing right, had changed little by 1971, preserving the solemn dignity of the 16th president. The reverse featured the Lincoln Memorial, a design by Frank Gasparo introduced in 1959 to honor the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. What many people overlook is that inside the memorial, visible under magnification, is a tiny seated statue of Lincoln, a coin within a coin, a tribute within a tribute. As the years passed, certain 1971 specimens emerged that bore distinctive features setting them apart. The most sought after are those with doubling, a type of error where the die strikes the coin more than once, offset ever so slightly. This doubling can manifest in various forms: on the date, on Lincoln's eye, or most spectacularly on the lettering. These double die errors are catalogued meticulously, with specific varieties designated by codes like DDO-001, double die obverse number 1, leading collectors to engage in what feels like scientific discovery with every new find. Weight also plays a vital role in the coin's evaluation. The standard copper penny in 1971 weighed 3.11 grams, composed of 95% copper and 5% zinc. However, any deviation in weight could signal a major error, perhaps a coin struck on a foreign planchet or one where planchet alloy inconsistencies occurred. Coins weighing slightly more or less than the standard are carefully analyzed, and if they fall outside of acceptable tolerances, they become targets of intense interest. As copper prices rose in the years following 1971, many of these coins became intrinsically more valuable due to their metal content alone. Though it remains illegal to melt down cents for scrap in the U.S., collectors have long kept an eye on copper penny hoards, recognizing their value not just as collectibles but as potential commodity plays. This adds yet another layer of intrigue to the 1971 coin. It's not just a historical artifact or an error hunter's dream, but a hedge against inflation in a copper-hungry world. The coin symbolism also extends beyond its metallic core and visible details. To many, the Lincoln cent represents stability in a changing America. In the early 1970s, the country was experiencing seismic shifts, politically, culturally, economically. And amid that flux, the Lincoln penny remained unchanged in the pockets of citizens, a daily reminder of leadership, sacrifice, and unity. Perhaps it is this emotional connection that explains why so many are fascinated by it, why someone would pay thousands, or even fantasize about paying hundreds of millions, to own the most perfect version of something so fundamentally ordinary. And yet, there is another angle: the speculative markets. In recent years, the world of coin collecting has collided with the world of digital assets and NFTs. A perfectly graded, rare error 1971 penny might not only be valuable in the physical realm, but its image could be tokenized, auctioned online, and owned fractionally. This convergence of physical rarity and digital novelty has added rocket fuel to the price speculation. As seen in niche auctions and private sales, collectors are increasingly looking at numismatic pieces not only as historical treasures but as speculative investments, tangible tokens of permanence in a transient world. Moreover, the 1971 penny has begun appearing in luxury circles, surprising many outside the numismatic community. Celebrity collectors have reportedly purchased mint-state examples at premium prices. Influencers on social media, especially TikTok and YouTube, have contributed to viral trends encouraging people to search through their spare change for million-dollar pennies. While this sometimes leads to exaggeration, it also creates a positive ripple effect, getting new generations interested in history, design, economics, and the beauty of fine detail. As the market expands and more sophisticated tools become available to hobbyists, the scrutiny under which coins like the 1971 cent are placed becomes ever more detailed. From AI-based image analysis for detecting microerrors to portable XRF scanners for testing alloy composition, the field of numismatics is becoming more technologically empowered than ever. And that means the likelihood of discovering new varieties, previously undocumented errors, and even fabled ultra-rarities increases exponentially. The legend of the billion-dollar cent may still seem fantastical, but the infrastructure now exists to validate, track, and auction such a coin should it surface. And so, the story continues: a copper coin, struck in Denver over 5 decades ago, now at the center of a swirl of passion, precision, and possibility. Whether it's tucked inside a plastic flip in a basement drawer, lying in wait at the bottom of a mason jar, or held in white-gloved hands under halogen light at an auction house, the 1971 D Lincoln cent continues to hold a power far beyond its face value. It is a testament to the magic that lies in everyday objects, and the extraordinary stories they can tell, not just about our monetary system or minting practices, but about who we are, what we value, and how even a humble penny can become the centerpiece of a modern legend. And now, as we reach this point in our epic exploration of the legendary 1971 D Lincoln penny, let's take a moment to reflect on the journey this humble copper coin has taken, from the blazing furnaces of the Denver Mint to the fevered imaginations of collectors across the world. There is something truly captivating about how a piece of metal weighing just 3.11 grams, composed of 95% copper and 5% zinc, struck over half a century ago, could stir such emotions, invite such fascination, and command whispers of a value nearing a staggering $991 million in speculative collector circles. It may sound unbelievable, and perhaps in many ways, it is, but that's part of what makes the numismatic world so endlessly fascinating. The myth, the rarity, the legend, all collide to transform the mundane into the miraculous. When you hold a 1971 D Lincoln cent in your hand, you are holding a piece of history forged during a turbulent era. The early 70s were not just a period of economic and political upheaval, they were a crucible of cultural change, innovation, and unrest. This penny was minted during Richard Nixon's presidency, at a time when the Vietnam War raged, NASA's ambitions continued to expand beyond Earth, and the American public began questioning long-standing institutions. The imagery on the coin, the stoic profile of Abraham Lincoln, the bold, "In God We Trust," the simple yet powerful, "Liberty," on the left side of his face, feels heavier when seen in the context of those years. These were not just decorative flourishes, they were symbols of national identity, carefully chosen to evoke ideals of unity and perseverance. The Denver Mint, responsible for producing this specific variation, the 1971 D, was operating at full capacity to meet the needs of a growing economy. Over 2.9 billion 1971 D Lincoln cents were struck that year. On paper, this would appear to make the coin incredibly common. But that's where the intrigue truly begins. Because despite the mass production, certain extremely rare variants, errors, and condition-specific examples have turned this everyday coin into a numismatic holy grail. It's these rare anomalies that send the pulse of collectors into overdrive: misaligned dies, double dies, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and especially those struck on experimental or transitional planchets that shouldn't have been in use at all during that minting run. Collectors have scoured roll after roll, jar after jar, seeking that elusive specimen. Some even speculate that a few coins struck in 1971 with a Denver Mint mark were mistakenly made using experimental blanks from other denominations or metals not intended for the penny at all. Stories have circulated of coins discovered decades later with odd compositions, higher zinc content, or even copper-nickel cladding similar to what you'd find on a dime. Though these are exceptionally rare and not officially acknowledged by the U.S. Mint, the tales persist and continue to feed the dream of uncovering a coin worth more than gold itself. But rarity alone does not account for the rumors and speculation of the coin's astronomical value. The real fuel behind the $991 million figure lies in the deep psychological and symbolic value people attribute to certain artifacts. Coins are, after all, among the most widely handled human creations in history. Billions have touched, exchanged, saved, and spent them. But in rare instances, a coin becomes more than currency. It becomes a talisman, a relic, a marker of time. The idea that a seemingly worthless item can attain unimaginable worth resonates with the deepest human yearning for transformation, for finding magic in the mundane. One of the most incredible stories surrounding the 1971 D cent involves a collector from the Midwest who allegedly stumbled upon a pristine, untouched roll of uncirculated 1971 D cents at a yard sale in the mid-1980s. According to numismatic folklore, one of those pennies displayed a double die obverse so crisp, so dramatic, that experts were left stunned. The coin, graded MS-67RD by PCGS, reportedly sold in a private transaction for a sum north of six figures. While this doesn't approach the speculative $991 million mark, it does speak to how valuable certain variations of this coin can become. We also cannot ignore the influence of the collector market and media hype. Coins like the 1971D have, over time, become subject to speculative bubbles driven by viral stories, exaggerated listings on online marketplaces, and celebrity endorsements of coin collecting as a hobby. It's not uncommon to see listings claiming 6- or 7-figure valuations for coins with unusual but unverified features. These exaggerated price tags fuel public interest and sometimes even spark mini-mania in online communities. And while the reality of the market may not support such stratospheric prices for most 1971D cents, the mythology only grows stronger. So what could ever justify a value of $991 million for a single 1971D penny? The answer is both philosophical and speculative. It could be that a single coin exists, undiscovered or locked in a private collection, that features a combination of attributes so rare, so impossible, that it becomes one of a kind. Imagine, if you will, a 1971D cent struck on a gold planchet by mistake, perfectly centered, free of blemish, and preserved in flawless mint condition. Imagine if that coin was tied to a significant historical figure or event. Perhaps it was part of a special presentation set given to a president, lost to time, and then rediscovered in some long-forgotten vault. Could that coin fetch a fortune in a high-profile auction? Could it become a cultural icon, even a symbol of American heritage? It's not impossible. Stranger things have happened in the world of collectibles. Remember the 1933 Double Eagle, a $20 gold coin that was never legally released into circulation, yet one example sold for over $18 million in 2021. If a coin can carry a story, and that story is strong enough, people will pay nearly any price to possess it. Even without such mythic qualities, the 1971D Lincoln cent remains a powerful artifact. It's a snapshot of a nation in flux, a monument to a beloved president, and a reminder that history can be held in your palm. For those who dig deeper, into mint records, metallurgical analyses, and error reports, there are endless rabbit holes to explore. Every die pair, every planchet variation, every wear pattern tells a tale. That's what keeps the obsession alive, and as the collector market continues to evolve, as technology makes it easier to analyze and authenticate coins with microscopic precision, who knows what new discoveries lie ahead? Will someone find a new variant that changes what we know about the 1971D mintage? Will the coin that's already sitting in someone's attic turn out to be the fabled $900 million cent? Only time will tell. But until then, the legend of the 1971D penny will continue to grow, inspiring new collectors, fueling old debates, and serving as a glittering reminder that in the world of coins, the next great fortune might just be hiding in plain sight. Even now, as coin collectors pore over their decades-old stashes, searching carefully through jars and rolls of pennies, the dream of discovering a truly rare 1971D Lincoln cent still flickers brightly. Why? Because unlike many other modern coins, the 1971D penny carries layers of mystery, subtlety, and untold opportunity. To the untrained eye, it might appear like any other Lincoln cent, copper-colored, a small profile of Abraham Lincoln facing right, the words, "In God We Trust," arching gracefully above his head. Yet what sets this coin apart is not just the sheer number minted or its metallic makeup, but the anomalies, the overlooked errors, the surviving few with incredibly rare characteristics that have fetched astronomical figures on the secondary market. Some of these coins have been graded by professional services like PCGS and NGC as being in pristine condition, MS67 or higher, and those specimens, although extremely rare, have shocked the numismatic world with jaw-dropping auction results. Imagine discovering a small, reddish-brown coin that weighs approximately 3.11 grams, measures 19.05 millimeters in diameter, and is made primarily of copper and zinc. It may be a common object in circulation, yet within that single disc lies the potential of a massive return, because, unknown to most people, a minuscule error, a slight variation in strike, or even a planchet anomaly can drastically alter a coin's value. It's true that over 2.9 billion 1971 D Lincoln cents were struck at the Denver Mint, which would make one assume that all examples are common. But therein lies the paradox: rarity doesn't always come from quantity, sometimes it arises from quality and uniqueness. Among billions, only a sliver may have the traits that transform an everyday coin into a prized treasure. Take, for instance, the double die varieties that some collectors have uncovered. These double dies show clear doubling in the lettering, especially in the date and the word Liberty. Although official mint documentation doesn't widely acknowledge these anomalies in the 1971 D run, advanced collectors and researchers have found several known examples, whose diagnostics have been verified through high-resolution imaging and comparative analysis. These coins aren't just curiosities, they are sought-after artifacts in numismatic circles, traded among elite collectors for tens of thousands of dollars, if not more depending on the condition. And when you factor in provenance, say, a coin owned by a renowned numismatist or featured in a famous auction, the value can increase exponentially. Let us also not forget the artistic design of the coin. The obverse, as most coin collectors know, features the bust of Abraham Lincoln sculpted by Victor David Brenner, first appearing on the cent in 1909 to mark the centennial of Lincoln's birth. Brenner's initials, VDB, are a small yet important detail on the coin, sometimes missing or faint due to overpolishing or wear. On the reverse side, until 2008, we find the Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gasparo. This design isn't just symbolic, it visually aligns with Lincoln's legacy of unity and strength during the Civil War era. Hidden within the columns of the memorial, if one looks closely with magnification, is a tiny depiction of the statue of Lincoln itself, one of the most intricate microdetails ever added to a circulating U.S. coin. That's an astounding testament to the craftsmanship behind even the smallest currency denomination. Over the years, coins with full, crisp strikes, showing all details of Lincoln's jacket and the memorial columns, have become increasingly hard to find, particularly in high grades like MS-67 or MS-68. This is largely because of circulation wear and the fact that cents were not handled with the same care as higher denominations. But the few that have survived in pristine condition, especially from the Denver Mint and particularly with unusual characteristics, are now commanding monumental prices. The most mind-blowing story comes from a high-grade specimen that surfaced in a private collection and was eventually auctioned for a speculative, controversial, yet widely rumored $991 million, although this figure is often debated among insiders and skeptics. Whether the final transaction truly amounted to such a sum is still under wraps, obscured by private sale confidentiality and conflicting reports. But what cannot be denied is the buzz this story generated, enough to spark a frenzy of penny searches across the country and beyond, and there's something captivating, almost poetic, about the idea that such a humble object, a 1-cent piece, could be worth nearly $1 billion. It reshapes how we view money, value, and history. Think about it. A coin designed to facilitate transactions as small as a stick of gum or a gumball, now positioned among the rarest and most valuable numismatic items in the world. It challenges our assumptions about what makes something valuable. Is it age? Not necessarily, many older coins are worth just face value. Is it rarity? Yes, but rarity defined not by mintage numbers alone, but by surviving quality, unique traits, minting errors, and above all, demand. That's the alchemy of numismatics, turning copper into gold, so to speak. In recent years, with the rise of social media and digital marketplaces, even casual collectors have begun to understand the potential of coins like the 1971 D-cent. TikTok videos and YouTube shorts showcasing million-dollar pennies have gone viral, triggering a rush of coin searches across homes, garages, and inherited collections. Parents are passing down jars of old coins to their children, who are now examining them with loupes and USB microscopes. Tools once reserved for professionals are now accessible to everyone. Apps can scan and identify coins in seconds. Communities of collectors, online forums, Discord servers, Facebook groups, are uniting enthusiasts who discuss everything from planchet errors to auction tips. It's a renaissance of interest in what was once seen as a dying hobby, and that renewed interest has also brought increased scrutiny. Grading services have seen a rise in submissions of 1971 D cents. People are willing to pay the $30 to $100 grading fee just to see if their penny is among the elite. Coin shows now include educational sessions specifically dedicated to identifying errors and rare varieties of Lincoln cents. The 1971 D, once glossed over as common, is now a subject of detailed investigation. And collectors are starting to view their coins not just as curiosities, but as investments, historical relics, and in some cases, lottery tickets hiding in plain sight. As we move forward in this unfolding saga of the 1971 D penny, it becomes increasingly clear that value isn't just monetary. It's cultural. It's historical. It's personal. That penny in your drawer may not be worth $991 million, but it might be the spark that ignites a lifelong passion, connects you to your family's past, or inspires you to explore the overlooked corners of American history. It might lead you to learn about mint marks, die varieties, coinage acts, and the evolution of U.S. currency. It might even lead you to the thrill of the hunt, the joy of uncovering something extraordinary in the most ordinary of places. Stay tuned as we continue our deep dive into the world of rare Lincoln cents, where copper becomes a gateway to history, and even the smallest coin can hold the biggest story. More discoveries, more insights, and more real-world examples of how this seemingly humble penny has become a legend in its own right. The notion that a single penny could someday be worth millions of dollars may seem fanciful to the average observer, but the numismatic world is full of legends, surprises, and rarities that defy expectations and logic. The 1971 D Lincoln cent, minted in Denver, is no ordinary coin to those who understand its history. While millions upon millions were struck at the Denver Mint that year, not all were created equal. And it is within this vast sea of copper and zinc alloy that a few specific specimens emerged, with minute yet monumental distinctions, that would later stun the coin-collecting world and spark fervent searches by collectors and treasure hunters alike. The Denver Mint, known for its precision and consistency, was nonetheless susceptible to the anomalies that make some coins extraordinarily valuable. Among these 1971 D cents, there were reports of double dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, die clashes, and most mysteriously, errors that never should have left the mint at all. Coins with sharply doubled inscriptions such as, "In God We Trust," or "Liberty," became the focus of serious collectors. These double die errors, especially on a coin as commonly circulated as the 1971 D cent, were not just anomalies, they were jackpots. The doubling is often the result of a misalignment in the hubbing process, where the die is impressed more than once, but at slightly different angles. These types of coins have fetched astronomical prices at auction, not just because of rarity but because of the story and mystery they represent, but the story doesn't end at errors. What gives even the most seemingly mundane of these coins potential multi-million-dollar value is provenance, condition, and the mystique of the collector's market. High-grade specimens certified by top-tier grading agencies like PCGS or NGC, especially those in MS-67 red condition or better, are almost impossibly rare. In the numismatic world, a coin's color designation, red, RD, red-brown, RB, or brown, BN, can make a staggering difference in price. A 1971 D cent in red designation with sharp details, full steps, and no visible contact marks under magnification is not just rare, it's nearly mythical. There are whispers, tales, and sometimes even documented examples of collectors discovering a rare 1971 D cent tucked in a roll of pennies bought for $1. And what they discovered wasn't just a coin, it was history forged in copper. These tales inspire countless treasure hunters to scour change jars, inherited coin collections, and even vending machine returns, hoping to find the one elusive cent that carries an unimaginable price tag. Indeed, it's this hunt that fuels the million-dollar dream. The dream that a 1-cent piece, overlooked for decades, can rise from obscurity and be valued at nearly $1 billion, $991 million, as some speculative collectors and historians have passionately argued. This estimation isn't pulled from thin air. In rare coin valuation, factors like historical relevance, collector demand, extreme rarity due to unknown mint errors, and speculation all play a role. Just as the 1933 double eagle or the 1794 flowing hair dollar are considered priceless by many, some believe the perfect 1971 D-era coin, perhaps a double die that is undocumented, or a specimen struck on the wrong planchet, or even a prototype test piece accidentally released into circulation, could command an unprecedented price should it surface at a major auction or private sale. That coin, they argue, may be the holy grail of Lincoln cents. A coin that brings with it the story of an era, of American economic history, of minting errors that defy odds, and of a collector's triumph. Furthermore, the 1971 D cent is steeped in context that elevates its appeal. The early 1970s were a time of economic transformation in the United States. The dollar was moving away from the gold standard, inflation was beginning to rear its head, and the cost of minting coins was under intense scrutiny. The materials used in the cent, 95% copper and 5% zinc, would soon change, driven by market forces. The coin's weight of 3.11 grams, now standardized and measured to the thousandth of a gram by serious numismatists, became a key identifier for authenticity and composition. It's this context that adds gravitas to the coin. It isn't just a copper disc, it's a microcosm of American history in transition. Collectors also pay great attention to mint marks, and the D on the 1971 D cent, while common, tells its own story. Unlike Philadelphia coins of that time, Denver's output was typically more precise, yet this precision occasionally birthed fascinating variants. Over-punched mint marks, repunched mint marks, RPMs, and filled mint marks where the D appears faint or misshapen have all been documented. In fact, several varieties of 1971 D cents with RPM errors have been listed in the Cherry Picker's Guide, a legendary resource among coin aficionados. These RPMs can fetch hundreds to thousands of dollars depending on condition, with the most well-preserved examples being worth far more to the right buyer, and it's not just the professional collectors who fuel this market. The 1971 D cent has reached mainstream attention thanks to viral posts, YouTube videos, and news articles claiming discoveries of ultra-rare pennies worth millions. While many such claims are exaggerated or misinformed, they serve to highlight the enduring fascination with this humble coin. Social media groups, forums, and auction platforms buzz with debates about new finds, potential misstrikes, and speculative values. The online coin community is both deeply knowledgeable and wildly passionate, and it is within these networks that rumors of a $991 million cent continue to swirl. The symbolism of the Lincoln cent itself plays no small part in its allure. Featuring the iconic bust of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner, the coin has long stood as a symbol of American resilience, equality, and democratic ideals. The reverse of the 1971 D cent features the Lincoln Memorial, a continuation of the theme of reverence for the great emancipator. The detail captured in these designs, particularly in well-struck specimens, is nothing short of artistic. Collectors look for full steps in the memorial, crisp lines in Lincoln's hair, and sharp lettering to determine quality. Even a tiny nick on the cheek or a faint blemish in the field can dramatically lower a coin's grade and value. It's in this blend of artistry, history, error, and scarcity that the 1971 D cent finds its mythical status. While tens of thousands of these coins may sit unnoticed in drawers or jars, only a tiny handful possess the exact combination of features that make them truly exceptional. And it's those few that create legends. Every so often, a new discovery reignites the debate. Could this be the elusive ultra-rare 1971 D worth nearly $1 billion? Numismatists debate, experts analyze, and the coin community holds its breath. Because if such a specimen were to be verified, authenticated, and placed at auction, it would shatter records and redefine the upper limit of what a single cent could be worth. Still, the journey to such a discovery is paved with knowledge, diligence, and luck. Collectors examine thousands of coins, cross-referencing known varieties, scanning for signs of doubling under microscopes, weighing each coin precisely, and even using metal analyzers to confirm composition. They become amateur historians, metallurgists, and detectives in pursuit of that one coin that defies all odds. And the 1971 D cent, specifically those with unique, undocumented errors, remains a beacon in that search. If such a coin were to surface, it would not only be worth $991 million due to intrinsic features. The media frenzy, historical significance, collector bidding war, and sheer spectacle of the event would propel it into the realm of cultural icon. It would likely be displayed in national museums, discussed in economic journals, and referenced in pop culture as the ultimate symbol of hidden value. It would become more than just a penny. It would become a legend etched into both coin lore and national consciousness, and as long as people continue to check their change, comb through old penny rolls, and dig through attic boxes of inherited collections, the hunt remains alive. The legend of the 1971 D Lincoln cent worth nearly $1 billion is not just about money, it's about mystery, history, passion, and the enduring hope that something extraordinary still lies in the most ordinary of places. Oh, now as we go deeper into the journey of this tiny yet profoundly historic 1971 D Lincoln cent, the tale becomes more fascinating, not because of just its monetary value, but because of the confluence of American history, numismatics, craftsmanship, and pure luck that encapsulates it. While at face value it may seem like just another piece of bronze alloy minted in Denver, those who understand the world of rare coins know that this cent tells a much deeper story, one carved not only into the metal itself but into the very culture and economic memory of a nation. At a time when the Vietnam War was still ongoing, and public confidence in governmental institutions was teetering, the production of everyday currency like the Lincoln cent carried with it unintended symbolism. A single cent could pass from one hand to another, across states, across political divides, across economic classes, without discrimination. It was, in many ways, one of the purest tools of unity in a country struggling to hold on to cohesion. The Lincoln cent bearing the D mint mark from 1971 emerged from the Denver Mint, a branch known for its high-quality output and mechanized precision, having begun operations over a century earlier. What makes the 1971 D cent particularly captivating for collectors isn't just the mass production. After all, over 2.9 billion of these coins were minted, but the specific errors, variations, and conditions in which a very small number of them survived. It is in this very context that certain rare specimens have now reached astronomical valuations, including one particularly fabled coin tied to a jaw-dropping appraisal of $991 million. Though not yet confirmed by mainstream auction houses, this valuation has ignited wild debates across online coin forums, appraisal communities, and collector circles. Could a coin worth 1 cent truly be worth nearly $1 billion? The answer, surprisingly, is yes, but under very rare and exotic circumstances. In cases of mint errors, extreme rarity, historical significance, and condition preserved at a practically flawless grade by grading authorities like PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, or NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, the price of a coin can leap thousands, millions, or even hundreds of millions of times its face value. The specific coin speculated to carry such an extreme value reportedly contains a rare misstrike pattern, possibly a double-die obverse variant, struck on an experimental planchet or involving some kind of clandestine minting anomaly that slipped through Denver's quality control. Weight-wise, the standard 1971 D Lincoln cent tips the scale at approximately 3.11 grams. Composed of 95% copper and 5% zinc, a composition standard for cents minted between 1909 and 1982 before the shift to a predominantly zinc-based alloy. However, advanced analysis of some rare pieces suggests that a handful were unintentionally struck on foreign or experimental planchets. These planchets, sometimes used during test runs for upcoming compositional changes or as the result of accidental planchet mixing, give the coin a slightly off-standard weight, perhaps 3.08 grams or 3.14 grams, and that seemingly small anomaly can indicate an entirely different origin story. Metallurgical studies on these pieces reveal minor yet detectable differences, often visible only through laboratory-level spectrography, making them the subject of great scrutiny and intense collector interest. Design-wise, the 1971 D Lincoln cent features the enduring image of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse. Designed by Victor David Brenner in 1909 to honor the centennial of Lincoln's birth. The initials, VDB, which sparked early controversy due to their initial prominence in 1909, are subtly located at the bottom of Lincoln's shoulder on the obverse. On the reverse side, until 2008, the Lincoln Memorial stood proudly, designed by Frank Gasparo, where with a magnifying lens, one can even spot the tiny figure of the seated Lincoln between the columns. This intricate detailing, often overlooked by casual observers, showcases the kind of dedication to craftsmanship that marked early 20th century American coinage. Yet even within such standardized designs, minor differences arise in the shape of the lettering, spacing between elements, or the strength of the strike, all of which can dramatically impact a coin's rarity and value. What's even more intriguing about the 1971 cent is the subculture that has built around collecting it. Online forums like CoinTalk, Reddit's r/coins, and dedicated YouTube numismatic channels regularly feature updates, findings, and even arguments over various minute die varieties. Among these, the double die obverse versions, where inscriptions like "Liberty" or "In God We Trust" appear slightly shadowed or doubled due to a misalignment during the hubbing process, stand out as some of the most sought after. A true, confirmed double die 1971 cent in pristine, uncirculated condition, preferably at a grade of MS 67 or higher, could easily reach tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars at auction, if not more. And should one possess such a coin with further unique attributes, such as being struck on a transitional planchet or showing multiple rare errors, it could theoretically approach or exceed the kind of nine-figure valuation that has been rumored online. But what makes this narrative so compelling isn't only the potential for enormous monetary gain. It's the human side, the joy of discovery, the passion of collectors spending years poring over rolls of pennies, searching flea markets, garage sales, and estate auctions in hopes of finding a gem hiding in plain sight. It's the grandparents who pass down old coin jars to their grandchildren, unknowingly transferring incredible historical artifacts and maybe even fortunes without realizing it. It's the story of that one teenager who, out of curiosity, took a magnifying glass to a dull-looking penny and uncovered what might be the find of the century. Meanwhile, the market for rare coins, particularly Lincoln cents, has exploded in recent years. As of the most recent sales data, a regular 1971 cent in average circulated condition still hovers around face value, but high-grade examples, especially those designated as red, RD, rather than brown, BN, or red-brown, RB, can command hundreds to thousands of dollars. Auction houses like Heritage Auctions and Stack's Bowers have facilitated bidding wars for rare specimens, driving prices well beyond estimated values, especially when two or more competitive bidders are involved. And in these rarefied circles, rumors of ultra-rare examples, some even hinting at classified prototypes or mint-intended one-offs, persist, keeping interest alive and speculation intense. As we proceed even further into the analysis of this legendary cent, it's important to reflect on the subtle interplay between chance and precision. For every billion coins produced, it's the unexpected blips, the die cracks, the off-center strikes, the transitional metal mixtures, that draw attention. Human error, far from being a flaw, becomes a treasure in the eyes of collectors. And the 1971 cent has been especially fertile ground for these sorts of anomalies. Multiple die pairs were used during its production, and while the vast majority yielded ordinary results, a few produced unexpected varieties. Some of these were fleeting, perhaps only a few thousand impressions before being retired, making the coin struck during those short intervals extremely rare and desirable. And yet, most people who have a 1971 cent sitting in a drawer or tucked in an old envelope may never think twice about it. That's the paradox. In an era of digitized assets, stock tickers, and cryptocurrencies, sometimes the most valuable thing might be sitting right under your nose, disguised as pocket change. And while not every 1971 cent is a multi-million-dollar treasure, the fact that even one might be is enough to inspire the entire numismatic community to keep searching. And now we enter even deeper into the mystery and magnetism of the 1971 Lincoln cent. This is more than just a penny, it is an artifact of American history, and a gateway into the complex web of numismatics, market valuation, and the human fascination with rarity. We've gone over weight, the mint mark, the Denver origin, the typical copper-zinc composition, the coin striking process, and even the minute imperfections that distinguish one penny from another minted in the same year. But the further we dig, the more layers are uncovered, layers that transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. Collectors are driven not by the face value of the coin but by the story it tells, and the potential it hides. That's why some examples of the 1971 D Lincoln cent, particularly those exhibiting extreme double-die obverse, or errors in the reading and planchet integrity, can command interest far beyond their humble beginnings. These rare variants are treated like buried treasure, sometimes sitting unnoticed in jars or rolls of coins until an observant eye catches something peculiar. A slight doubling on the date. An off-center strike. A rotated die alignment. Each of these small quirks, when authenticated, can exponentially increase the value of the coin, launching it into a different league entirely. And while the bulk of 1971 D Lincoln cents still circulate with values under $1, specific specimens have been known to trade hands for hundreds, thousands, and in speculative markets even be listed in the tens of thousands, often due to provenance or pedigree, meaning coins that have been passed through the hands of famous collectors or have been certified at a higher than expected grade. What makes this coin especially captivating is the growing interest in copper-based currency as the U.S. economy continues its shift into digital assets and the potential obsolescence of physical coinage altogether. Now let's shift our focus to the influence of international collectors on the market for the 1971 D Lincoln cent. As American coins become more of a global collector's item, thanks to the growth of online auction platforms and numismatic conventions around the world, coins like this that represent a turning point in U.S. minting history are receiving more attention from investors overseas. Many collectors in countries such as Japan, Germany, and the United Kingdom have taken a keen interest in mid-20th century U.S. coinage, especially those coins that encapsulate transitional metal phases and design evolutions. That's precisely what the 1971 D penny represents, a bridge between the post-war era of American coinage and the modern-day minting economy. Then, of course, we have the issue of the alleged multi-million-dollar variants, particularly the coin often cited in rumors to have reached a staggering $991 million in perceived or speculative market value. Whether these rumors stem from misidentified transactions, exaggerated auction posts, or myth-building within online collector communities, they serve an important function. They highlight the feverish excitement that surrounds the idea of turning pocket change into life-changing wealth. It's the ultimate treasure-hunting fantasy. But like all compelling myths, there's often a kernel of truth. Some exceptionally rare mint-error coins can indeed go for 6, or even 7-figure amounts under the right conditions, though the 9-figure valuation is more symbolic than real, yet it speaks volumes about the power of belief in the world of coin collectors. It's worth remembering that the United States Mint in Denver, where the D mint mark on the 1971 D Lincoln cent originates, had the reputation of being one of the most efficient and high-output mints of the 20th century. But no mint is perfect. Each year, thousands of error coins inadvertently escape their watchful quality control process. These errors can range from minor anomalies like die cracks or planchet laminations to dramatic errors like wrong metal planchets, double dies, or broad strikes. Every one of those errors on a 1971 D Lincoln cent represents a golden opportunity for collectors. One of the most sought-after error varieties of the 1971 D penny is the off-metal strike, where the penny may have been struck on a planchet meant for a dime or even a foreign coin. This kind of error is exceedingly rare and typically happens during transitional years or due to leftover blanks from other coin series that were mistakenly loaded into the wrong coining press. When a penny is struck on a dime planchet, it's instantly recognizable by its lighter weight and smaller diameter, details that don't escape seasoned numismatists. Authentication and certification by major grading services like PCGS or NGC is usually required to confirm such an error, but once confirmed, these coins can command immense premiums. Speaking of weight, the standard weight for a 1971 D Lincoln cent is 3.11 grams, reflecting its 95% copper, 5% zinc composition. However, slight variations in weight, either due to wear, planchet thickness, or impurities, can sometimes result in minor value differences, particularly if the coin is in uncirculated or mint state condition. The color designation also affects grading and value. Collectors distinguish between red, RD, red-brown, RB, and brown, BN, based on the coin's luster and oxidation level. A 1971 D. Lincoln cent in full red MS-67 condition is much more valuable than a dull, circulated counterpart. The design remains iconic. The right-facing bust of Abraham Lincoln, originally sculpted by Victor David Brenner and first used in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. This design was a radical shift in U.S. coinage history. It was the first time a real person had been featured on a circulating American coin. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gasparo, graces the coin from 1959 through 2008. The level of detail on the Lincoln Memorial is especially fascinating. In high-grade versions of the coin, you can even see the tiny statue of Lincoln between the columns of the memorial, an incredible testament to the mint's craftsmanship. These elements, combined with historical context, metallic composition, and minting idiosyncrasies, create a complex profile for the 1971 D penny. It's not just about the coin itself, but also about its place in economic history. In 1971, the U.S. had just come off the gold standard under Nixon, and inflation was beginning to change the value perception of physical currency. A coin that cost more to mint than its face value already posed a paradox. The intrinsic metal value of the penny would later become a political and economic talking point, leading to further alterations in its composition in the 1980s. That gives the 1971 D coin a sense of finality. It's among the last of the traditional high copper cents before the lean toward cheaper zinc alternatives, and then we have the intrigue of coin hoards. In recent years, entire rolls and bags of unsearched 1971 D Lincoln cents have surfaced in estate sales and long-forgotten safety deposit boxes. When one such hoard came to light in the early 2000s, several MS-66 and MS-67 examples were pulled from bank-wrapped rolls, dramatically altering the known population of high-grade examples. It's this kind of drama, discovery, certification, auction, that keeps collectors hooked. The market for coins is not static. It is a constantly moving interplay of availability, demand, historical significance, and personal nostalgia. Even more interesting is the rise of new collectors, particularly younger ones, who are turning to coin collecting not just as a hobby, but as a form of tangible investment. As cryptocurrency and NFTs surged in recent years, there was also a parallel boom in physical collectibles. Coins like the 1971 D penny, with their documented history and scarcity in higher grades, have started being viewed as hedges against digital volatility. And with the rise of social media platforms and online auction houses like Heritage, Great Collections, and eBay, more eyes than ever are examining the pockets, drawers, and jars in search of these elusive copper treasures. The discussion around the $991 million value may still be shrouded in hyperbole, but it reflects something more powerful than raw currency. It reflects the idea that a single coin, overlooked by most, can captivate the world when placed under the spotlight of curiosity and hope. Whether or not a 1971 D Lincoln cent ever truly reaches that dollar amount, its legend is already solidified by the attention it receives, the stories built around it, and the constant reevaluation of what value really means in the world of numismatics. And as we prepare to explore even deeper facets of this iconic coin in future segments, including minting anomalies, auction case studies, and historical market cycles, one thing becomes crystal clear: the journey of a coin does not end at the mint. In fact, that's just where it begins. And so, after journeying through the history, the metallurgy, the design, and the mysterious allure of the 1971 D Lincoln cent, we arrive at a deeper understanding, not just of the coin itself, but of the enormous stories that even the smallest objects can carry. A single cent, a coin often discarded, forgotten in couch cushions, or overlooked in the rush of modern life, may hold the potential to redefine what we think of as valuable. The 1971 D penny, minted in Denver in that pivotal year, is more than copper and zinc fused into a tiny disc. It's a time capsule. It's a fingerprint of a nation evolving, of industries changing, of artistry pressed under enormous pressure into a form that millions touched, but only a few truly noticed, whether it's the standard version of the coin, or the elusive rare varieties with their double dies, off-center strikes, or transitional metal planchets. Each one holds secrets. And for collectors, dealers, historians, or the merely curious, the hunt for that one unique specimen continues to stir imaginations. Because somewhere, perhaps in a collection long forgotten in a dusty attic, or buried at the back of a safe deposit box, or still rattling in a child's old piggy bank, there may lie that one example that stands apart. The one cent with a story so rare, a condition so perfect, or an error so unusual, that it commands not just attention, but a market value once thought impossible. Could that coin be worth $991 million? Could its story reach into the realms of numismatic legend? Could a collector's wildest dream, fueled by anomalies, provenance, and scarcity, really manifest into something so valuable? While mainstream markets may not officially list any 1971 cent at such a staggering price tag, legends are born not from the ordinary, but from the exceptional. And sometimes, the story becomes the value. The myth becomes the magnet. And belief becomes the catalyst for value. So before you dismiss that lonely penny lying in the corner of your drawer, take a closer look. Flip it in your hand. Feel its weight, study its edges, examine its surface under the light. That small, ordinary-looking coin might not be so ordinary after all. It might be the missing piece in a billion-dollar puzzle. The tiny copper key to a mystery decades in the making. The connection between a minting anomaly, collector desire, historical context, and the powerful force of rarity that drives value sky-high. As we've seen throughout this journey, coin collecting is not just a hobby, it's a gateway into the past, an intersection of economics, politics, art, and mystery. Every coin is a storyteller. And the 1971 penny? It might be one of the loudest voices of them all. So stay curious. Keep collecting. Keep searching. Because you never know what treasure might be sitting right beneath your fingertips, unpolished, unassuming, and unimaginably valuable. Thanks for joining this extraordinary deep dive into one of the most fascinating coins in American numismatic history. Until next time, keep your eyes open, your magnifier ready, and remember, even a single cent can be worth a fortune.